Lee, I missed you. This is Bill Shatner. I'm so choked with emotion, I'm going to have a drink now.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson, Richard James, and Chris Dale.
It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
I thought you were going to sing it.
I used to, didn't I?
Go on.
Oh, must I?
No, don't worry.
It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast. That's especially for Earl Black, who used to enjoy mine. He made a list of all the podcasts in which I sang.
No.
It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast, but not only that, but the manner in which I sang it.
How was he classifying that?
Eagerness, length, slight sort of, deviation from the tune, that kind of thing. Yeah. There you go.
Well, there's another one for the list.
Throwback. That's right, yeah. But yes, it is the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Yeah,
and here we are.
Singing demon over there.
Yeah.
Is Richard N. James.
Yeah.
Best known for his roles in, many things. Space Precinct, obviously.
Well, for the current audience, yes.
Terrorhawks, First Action Bureau, Wind in the Willows.
Oh, yeah, gosh.
Wolfman.
We're going off piece, are we?
My Parents Are
Well
Aliens.
done.
Gadabout. A Nicorette advert directed by Edgar Wright.
That's true. I've told you all of this in the past.
Playing a Klingon in a Pizza Hut advert. More recently,
Yes.
in the Scarlet, I've forgotten the title of it, the thing that you're in.
Oh, Miss Scarlet and the Duke.
Miss Scarlet and the Duke.
Which I think you can find on the Alibi channel or something, or, a
There you
streaming
go.
thing. I don't really
You
understand.
see, he's done so much stuff. He's also an author, a podcast host,
Yes.
a corporate presentation trainer.
Oh, well, that's been known, yes.
Yeah.
Gosh. I do
All
sound
those-
busy, don't I?
You are busy.
How do I find time to sit in the garden and just watch the flowers
How
grow?
did you find time to sit here with me?
I know, and you're, of course, Jamie Anderson, son of the late, great Gerry Anderson, and not late, but great in your own way. Certainly not late. Wouldn't wish that on you.
This took a dark turn very early on.
But may I say, forging ahead with, lost Gerry Anderson properties,
Yes.
new ideas, new
Yes.
projects, audio, televisual, video, and, kind of books and novels and reading
Mime.
material, mime and expressive dance.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of that.
And sandwiched between us, two boring pieces of bread
Yes.
podcast hosts.
You're using the sandwich analogy again,
I
aren't
am
you?
again.
Okay.
We've got the real filling that everyone enjoys.
Chris.
Right over there, Chris Dale.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Yes.
Hi, guys. Good to see you.
And why is he here?
Well, he does the Randomiser, which is
yeah.
why he's known as the Randomiser, and he's got the Randomiser over there. And in fact, the guest presses a button, chooses the random episode, and then Chris says some funny things about it. But he's also, in his own right, a fantastic author,
Yes.
editor,
Yes,
voice
actor,
actor,
absolutely.
writer, historian,
I hate him.
archivist.
Yes.
I mean, he does huge amounts of stuff. He's brilliant.
Yes, he is brilliant. Yes, that's right. So he'll be along later, and the guest pressing the big red button on the randomizer will be none other than Lee Sullivan.
The big red Lee Sullivan. Yes,
That's right.
absolutely.
For the second part of his interview on Jeff Tracy's sofa.
On Jeff Tracy's sofa.
I just like saying
it's
it.
why, but then
just like saying it.
everyone thinks, well, what have
Why
we
is
done?
it Jeff-
Have we shipped in Jeff Tracy's sofa?
Yeah.
Is he there back on Tracy Island going, where's my sofa?
He could be.
Does he actually use it still? Is he going to be sat there one
Well,
day?
that opens up whole areas for fan fiction, doesn't it? And headcanon, as I think they call
The
it.
head kind of why Jeff Tracy would have a sofa in a room in a hotel in Slough.
There you go. I mean, I'd watch that.
Can't wait. It's
Great.
screening on Netflix next year.
That's it. Also coming up, of course, we've got Fab Facts in just a moment. That's where Jamie flicks through a book of Fab Facts, and I shout Fab, and we alight on a page, and he reads the Fab.
can't wait for
that. We sort of take a nominal vote on how interesting it may or may not be. We've also got the Gerry Anderson news, because, of course, there's always something new happening in the Gerry Anderson universe. And we've got our wonderful Podsterons. That's you at home, listeners and viewers. You've been emailing us, podcast@gerryanderson.com. And I think we'll be heading on over to YouTube as well to see what they've been commenting beneath some of our videos. I think that's covered all bases, isn't it?
I believe so.
There we go. Should we do it?
Well, now you've covered all the bases.
Yeah.
Should we cover a Fab Fact?
Let's do it quickly, though.
It's Fab Facts!
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
It's Fab Facts.
Yeah.
My book of Fab Facts is right here.
Gorgeous.
Richard James loves it. He loves it so much that, in fact, he can't help himself but to shout Fab at least once during the Fab Facts section.
That's right.
Weirdly, he often does that while I'm flicking through the pages, and it surprises me so much that it
Yes.
stops me flicking.
Oh.
And that is the method by which we find our Fab Fact, but it's
I
not
had
planned.
no idea.
It's actually just
that's
all
the
by
whole
chance.
process right there.
Hundreds of Fab Facts, all happening by chance.
Amazing.
So, I mean, you're getting excited, aren't you?
Yeah,
So you're going to shout Fab in a minute, probably.
probably.
Well, I just have a casual flick through the book. So,
Fab! Ah, you see. Got you. I got you.
gosh, and that's actually made my thumb quite
Clammy?
with
Yeah.
with fright.
Okay.
We're very close to the end of the book.
Oh, so I see. So that's later on in the
Yeah,
chronology.
It must be quite recent.
Okay.
So, now, Richard, I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll agree. Everyone, and I mean everyone,
Right.
loves the craft of the Gerry Anderson universe.
Oh, yes.
By which I mean the vehicles.
Yes.
Not necessarily. They also love the
craft
and the
yes,
method.
the art,
Absolutely.
yes, and the technique, yes. I
Yeah.
see.
Well, judging by how many of them gave their name to the series in which they appeared, so did Dad.
Okay.
So from Supercar, obviously,
Ah, I see.
to
Yeah.
Fireball XL5,
Right.
to Stingray,
Right.
and Thunderbirds.
Yes.
Maybe even at a push, UFO.
Okay, so it's like the vehicles were the star, really, of the show.
Exactly, yeah, starring
fair
him.
enough. Yeah.
It was very often the case that the ships sold the series.
Yeah.
But there's one particular Anderson craft that holds the enviable position
Yeah.
of being a firm fan favourite, while at the same time being the target of a few snarky comments over the years.
Get it. Snarky comments from Gerry Anderson fans.
Well, not our Podsterons.
Certainly not.
Some other people.
We won't hear of it.
But can you guess which vehicle it is?
A fan favourite, but also some snarky comments. No, go on, surprise me.
It's Officer Romac. No, yes, it is in fact the ungainly but still somehow quite beautiful and lovely from every angle.
Yes, Simone Mendes. I'm sorry.
Thunderbird 2.
Thunderbird 2.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, Thunderbird 2 has been the subject of many a jibe over the years concerning its girth and its potential lack of airworthiness.
Yes.
Those are fairly major problems for
Yes.
an aircraft.
Yes.
Of course, I think you'll find that Thunderbird 2 would never actually get off the ground.
Right.
That was me sort of doing a light, pernickety fan voice, but without being offensive. Did you get that? Was that
Yes,
right?
I picked that up,
I didn't
yes.
want to go too far.
No, sure.
Well, now the true believers among you have an answer. Yes, it would.
Oh,
Yep.
it would get off the ground.
Now, that is at least as far as the US military is concerned.
I see.
Well, December 2022 saw the launch of their latest drone, and it's drawn a few comparisons to a well-known green bear moth. And like Thunderbird 2, it doesn't even need a runway.
Ah, yeah.
Now, the unmanned and very catchily titled, I might say,
Go for it.
XQ-58A Valkyrie.
I wish I was a spaceman. That sounds a little bit XL5.
XQ-58A
Yeah.
Valkyrie. It's not very
Okay,
catchy. Anyway,
sure.
it blasts off from an inclined platform before taking flight, so very much like Thunderbird 2. It was unveiled by the US military at their Elgin Air Force Base in Florida in December 2022,
Yeah.
and was pictured taking to the sky and then flying in formation with an F-16C Viper fighter jet. The Air Force describes the Valkyrie as a low-maintenance, reusable vehicle designed to be used for several missions, but built at a cost that permits it to be a combat loss.
Oh dear, don't tell Virgil.
I know,
Yeah,
poor Virgil.
wow.
They explained this long-range aircraft is runway independent, offering maximum operational flexibility to the warfighter.
Okay.
Not really international rescue, but the
Sure,
opposite.
yeah.
And with its green colour, red-tipped tail wings and tapered nose, from the side at least, it bears an uncanny resemblance to most people's favourite Thunderbird, Thunderbird 2.
Yes, I see.
Now, have the top brass out in the US military been watching Thunderbirds? Or, shock horror, does it turn out that Thunderbird 2's design is actually the optimum shape to allow high speeds and agile manoeuvrability?
Oh,
Take that, TB2 haters.
wow. Really heartfelt there at the end,
Yeah,
Jamie.
yeah. Well, if you don't
Interesting.
like it, take it up with the US military, mate.
There you go, yeah. I mean, do you think they sort of paid any heed to the physics of flight? And not really, but does it matter? That's not the point, is it?
What do they describe it as? A lifting body. Now, I'm not sure if Derek Meddings described it as that, but they took inspiration for most of their vehicle designs from real life. You know, they were
Right.
out looking at aircraft magazines and all
Yeah.
the latest tech that was being out there. They were out at the World's Fair in
Yeah.
New York and beyond, looking at all the latest things that were actually happening in the real world, but were still prototypes, and taking kind of cues from those things.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it makes total sense that it might have had a chance to fly, but does it matter?
Yes,
Part
does
of
it matter?
Thunderbirds 2's charm is that it's got the Bumblebee aesthetic.
I mean, look, no one complains that, Doctor Who's TARDIS is a police box-shaped time and space machine that can go anywhere in the universe. No one complains about the, those shots of the Starship Enterprise in the atmosphere of a planet. That
Yeah.
plainly wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
It's about engaging the imagination, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And future tech that may allow for these things, but even if it doesn't, it's just a bit of fun and they look really cool.
Fair enough. Yeah, I approve.
Okay, good. Well,
excellent.
me too.
Yeah.
If you can think of any other similarities with Anderson Craft and real world stuff, Podsterons, email us, podcast@gerryanderson.com. But for now, that brings us to the end of this week's enormous Flight Fact.
Drone.
Flight.
It's a drone.
Flight.
Yeah, but it was a drone. No?
Drone fact, whatever.
Drone fact. You're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast, believe it or not. We happen to be here every week. So why not drop in on whatever platform you happen to listen to your podcasts on, or even watch us on YouTube. You can do that.
We're here relentlessly.
We
so
are
you
really relentless.
can watch us or listen to us as you so please.
Yes. Now, I wonder if anyone out there, do let us know if this is the case. You might be listening to us as you're out walking the dog or doing the hoovering or, whatever it might be. And you might come to a part of the podcast where you think, do you know what? I'd like to see what's going on there. So when I get home, I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm going to watch that section.
Yes.
Let us know if you do that.
Yeah.
And what you think about it.
Or if you start watching us and think, I can't bear this, and go back to listening.
It's bad enough having to listen to them, let alone see them.
Either way, we'd love to know, and
Yes.
we'll cry quietly in the corner
Yes. Again.
again.
Yeah. I think it's time that we had some Gerry Anderson news.
I think it is. Do you know what I really missed saying though before we do the handover to other me?
I know what's coming. Gerry
Newsy
Anderson,
news,
news.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening, Podsterons. This is Jamie Anderson coming to you live from San Diego Comic-Con. We have a big week of news from Anderson Entertainment, so let's get started. First up, Space Patrol fans, we have exciting news for you. Anderson Entertainment will be releasing the Blu-ray of this classic series by Roberta Lee, which was previously out of print following the sad closure of network distributing. This little gem will be back in August with pre-orders available now. And in celebration of this release, we've also put together a short making-of video on our YouTube channel, featuring interviews with Arthur Provis and Roberta Lee. In audio news, Stingray, Terrafake, Bible XL5, Cloud of a Billion Lights, and Captain Scarlet, Martian Menace are all shipping right now. These audio dramas and audiobooks come packed in a card sleeve reminiscent of the mini-albums of the 1960s. But for those of you who prefer the digital option, they're also available from BigFinish.com. For comic enthusiasts among you, we're thrilled to announce the Spectrum comic featuring Terrorhawks, Space Precinct and new Captain Scarlet has been such a hit with fans that a second issue is now in its final week on Kickstarter, so head over there and search for Spectrum to pre-order your copy right now. Coming later this week, we have an exclusive pre-order for a soundtrack CD of Gerry Anderson, A Life Uncharted. Music composed, of course, by Anderson alumnus Crispin Morel and introduced by Dad himself on every track. It's sure to take you on an emotive and enlightening journey through his life and career. This weekend, don't miss our summer weekend sale. We're offering 50 items at 50% off, so if you've been eyeing any of our bestsellers, this is the perfect chance for you to grab them. And lastly, we have a special teaser for Terrorhawks fans. We're fast approaching the show's 40th anniversary, as many of you will know, and we have some truly fantastic treats lined up for you, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Well, that's all the news from us this week. For the buzzing floor of San Diego Comic-Con, well, it's over there. I'm Jamie Anderson, signing off. Stay tuned for more updates from Anderson Entertainment next week. Back to Richard and Jamie in the studio.
That was some lovely news.
Lovely news.
Thank you, other me, lovely me. No, just other me. I don't know why I was
So
saying that.
weird.
It is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the only way we can do it.
I know, because I think it's no
up to the
secret.
minute nature.
Exactly. We're recording these a little bit in advance, and we want to give you the very latest Gerry
It's
Anderson.
all for you, Podsterons.
Newsy.
News.
It has been a while.
And you didn't sing.
Didn't. I'm getting so confused. It doesn't matter. Let's leave it this week, and I'll
You
see you next
sure?
week. As long as you remind me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Next time, you sing us out.
Yes. What, of the whole podcast?
No, just for the news.
Now,
Dear,
coming
dear.
up a little later, of course, we've got Chris Dale and the amazing Randomiser.
Amazing, mate. It was a bit sort of Cockney Australian there.
It is amazing, though.
That's how amazing it is.
It's a random episode of the Gerry Anderson oeuvre. I've said it again. I've literally never used that word before, and I've used it twice in the space of, but that's coming on to later on. But before we get there, I think we should hear from our wonderful Podsterons.
Are you sure?
Well, they have been
fancy
emailing.
a guest instead?
No, let's get to the guest after the emails.
All right, fine.
Because they have been emailing us at podcast@gerryanderson.com, and it'd be a shame, to let them down.
Okay, well, we should herald their arrival with some sort of voiceover moment.
This is the voice of the Podsterons.
And there it was.
Oh,
that was good, wasn't
it's
it?
spooky, isn't it? It really
is
sets
spooky.
the mood.
All right, don't oversell it. But yes, sure. Would you like to take the first?
Yes.
Go on then.
Leah Powell has
Oh,
been
yeah.
in touch. She says, hello, Jamie, Richard and Chris.
Hello.
Scott, this is in a previous podcast,
Yes.
one of the two Scotts from ITV Content Services.
Aha.
One of those Scotts was talking about how the upscaled Space Precinct effects are better than Red Dwarf, which is true,
Yeah.
but Red Dwarf was the first show to have one character on screen at the same time, with Rimmer on screen 3 times.
I see. Okay.
Red Dwarf is the reason that I got back into sci-fi, and Gerry Anderson shows particularly. So that comment kind of hurt. Oh, sorry, Leah.
Wow.
I mean, blame Scott.
Yeah, sure. Not our doing.
All these things are just subjective.
Of course they
All
are.
we're ever saying is, I like this more than other things, or I dislike this thing more than
Yeah.
other things. You don't have to agree.
Yeah.
It's not absolute.
That's right.
You can maintain your love of Red Dwarf, and it's great that it got you back into Anderson. So,
Absolutely right. Yeah.
so
of
feel free
course.
to ignore Scott, and if you would like to make a complaint, you can search Google for ITV Content Services
Oh,
and address
Jamie,
them.
you
Don't
can't
do
just
that.
cruel.
Please don't do that,
No.
because those guys are lovely, and they're doing some stuff for us right now.
Are they?
Yeah, exclusive there.
That
Podcast
wasn't exclusive. That just slipped out, didn't it?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Can't put it back in.
Why don't you just whisper it to me?
I can't tell you.
Oh, curses.
Tell you afterwards.
Now, you know Jack Phillipson?
I do. Good
Yeah.
old Jack.
Well, he's emailed us and said, Dear Jamie.
Oh.
That's it.
That's why I know him, you see.
Right.
He always writes directly to me.
I can contribute an extra factoid about Gerry Anderson's influence on anime.
This again?
It's rumbling on. In the 1999 neo-noir mecha series, The Big O, one of the pieces of the original soundtrack entitled Respect sounds a great deal like the theme to UFO.
I think I've heard this.
Have
it
you?
does.
Does
yes,
it?
very much so.
Incidentally, the series' main theme sounds a lot like Queen's theme for Flash Gordon. Yeah, I'm sure that the prolific mechanical designer and writer Shoji Kawamori,
Who we spoke about last week.
right, who designed the Thunderbird Shadow for Thunderbirds Go, is also a fan. But I haven't seen the Super Dimension Fortress Macross or the Vision of Escaflowne yet, so can't comment on how Anderson like his works are. Jack Phillipson. Did I say that correctly?
I don't know, but
I mean,
it's
we're bound to get
amazing.
an email from Michael House from Tokyo in Japan if I didn't.
Yes,
So
quite right too.
We look forward to that.
So thank you, Michael. But
Yeah.
I just love how many titles are coming through that we've not heard of.
No, absolutely.
And it's great to admit that you've not heard of things because we're learning things. It's,
Yeah.
great cultural, social brain dump going on here, isn't it?
It's there. I wonder what the smell was. Yes.
Did you want me to do one?
Oh, why not?
All right. How about this one from Nicholas Lopez?
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah, go for it.
Said, first, I want to thank you for your extraordinary work.
Oh, that's to me, is it?
I think it's to all of us.
Oh.
In all the podcasts that you do. Yes, it is all
I
of
see.
us, I guess.
Yeah.
This is my contribution about animes that inspire...
You see, we've touched a nerve.
about anime that are inspired by or pay tribute to Gerry Anderson. Yes, it
Okay.
really does rumble on.
Yes.
Oh, and this is one I've tried to say before, and I'm going to say wrong again. This is great, isn't it? I'm
Excellent.
so glad that these are in the script.
I'm glad you're reading this one.
There is a series
Yes.
called Pat Labor.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Pat Labour?
Who knows?
Pat Labor, about a metropolitan police force equipped with robots.
Yes,
we mentioned this
that's
before,
right,
right?
yeah.
In episode number 44...
There are 44 of them, at least.
Well, this at least 44.
Yeah.
Called Clat Forever.
Yeah.
We are told about the trip of one of the members of this squadron to New York to participate in a seminar. That sounds a thrilling story.
Looking forward to that.
This character has an accident in which he hits his head. Oh, we have had this previously.
And
and from
has
this
a
moment,
dream.
what we see is a dream in which absolutely everything is taken from the Gerry Anderson universe.
That's
Yes,
it, right.
Nicholas, we have heard this. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful tribute. As a curiosity, I add that later there is another episode in which one of the characters has a dream. But this time, everything seems to be taken from the universe of the Ultra series, Ultraman, Ultra 7, etc.
Okay, wow.
So there's huge amounts of inspiration and pastiche and homage and,
Yes.
and potentially copyright infringing material, but clearly done with so much love that nobody's had a go. But he says, I hope this information is useful to you. Nicholas, it
Certainly
is.
useful, yeah.
And I'm just amazed that the anime thing rumbles on. There's clearly something here. It just leads me on to say,
Yeah.
Podsterons, are you interested in seeing Thunderbirds 2086?
Oh,
that
go on.
anime series which sort of spun off from the initial ideas of a thing, Proto-Terrorhawks thing in Japan, and,
yes.
and ended up being an anime series that was sort of Thunderbirds inspired, but not very Thunderbirdsy at all.
Right.
Do you want to see it? I mean,
Are you suggesting that such a thing might be able to be seen?
It's been hidden away for a long time, and I suspect there's a rights issue, but we're getting better and better at clearing rights issues. So if you're interested, email us podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I will do my best to nudge that along somewhere.
Because it would be great to keep this whole anime subject thing rumbling on for another 4 weeks, wouldn't it?
Clearly, there's
Why
like
not?
I mean, it's not going to happen in the next 4 weeks, but
Yeah.
maybe towards the end of the year we can have another 4 weeks of podcasts where we're just talking about anime.
I'm a little bit worried because I remember going to a seminar in about 1991 and I fell over and banged my head. Since then, I seem to be living some kind of weird Gerry Anderson dream.
Oh, that is very interesting, isn't it?
Am I going to wake up at any moment?
Well, leave it to the end of this podcast, if you don't mind.
Okay, fine. All for now. Keep them coming in, though. As I always say, podcast@gerryanderson.com, and either Jamie or I will read them out next time. I will, and you will.
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
do a joint effort.
Absolutely, that's it, yeah.
Now, I think our guest may be winging his way towards us.
Oh, yes, having slept here for the last 7 nights.
Yeah, but he's just gone off to the bathroom to freshen up.
I should hope so,
I
after 7
assume,
nights.
yeah, he's going to come back.
Yes. I hope there was some sort of covering on the sofa.
Yeah, that explains the tarpaulin, I guess.
Right.
Should we welcome him back?
Yes.
Lee Sullivan just can't keep away from the Gerry Anderson podcast. He was with us in the early days and even delighted guests with his drawings at many notable Fab Lives, and now he's made himself at home on our sofa for part 2 of our interview. It's Lee Sullivan! Yay! You again? No, I'm only joking. Lee Sullivan, welcome back. How was your 7 days on the sofa?
I'm starting to get a little numb, as well as can be expected.
It's quite firm, isn't it, Jeff Tracy's sofa?
It is, yes, but then I think, are you sure it's Jeff's? Because I feel this is Alan's.
Well, Richard tells me over and over again.
Is it?
It is Jeff's, and he won't shut up about it, to be honest. So don't question it.
Okay.
Now, Lee, last week we covered all sorts of good stuff. You decided that you were going to be Captain Vanilla Scoop, if I remember.
Yes.
Which is probably the most crucial finding from our last episode. But we're going to touch on all sorts of stuff, including your recent work and stuff you might like to do and how you work and all that sort of stuff. But something rather nice about your first Anderson memory last week when we watched that. And you've also, I believe, selected your favourite Anderson character. So before we discuss it, why don't we look at the clip?
Oh, yes.
See who it is.
Yes.
Aircraft approaching from the east, height 2,500 feet. Speed 7.5 thousand miles per hour.
7.5 thousand miles an hour. Have you gone crazy?
London Tower from Thunderbird 1, approaching London Airport, height 2,500 feet. Airspeed 7.5 thousand miles per hour. We'll be touching down in 2 minutes. London Tower, this is International Rescue. Fireflash is in trouble and we are equipped to help you. Request permission to land.
International Rescue? What is this?
That must be the aircraft I just picked up.
This I must see. International Rescue, you are clear to land. Use runway 29.
Will not require runway, coming in vertically.
Have you gone crazy? What a great line.
Marvellous. Will do not require a runway coming in vertically.
Yeah, which you said when you arrived today, I seem to recall.
I say every time I arrive anywhere.
Absolutely right. It's well known for your vertical.
I've always entered vertically.
I mean, I hate to say it, Scott seems like a very obvious choice, and you don't seem like a very obvious chooser, perhaps. I thought you might go for Steve Zodiac. So why does Scott come in so high on your list? Well, at number 1.
I am a tremendous admirer of Steve Zodiac. I yield to none in my admiration for him. But Scott was the one... Thunderbirds hit me at exactly the right time. And I took all the characters very seriously. The annuals came out, I can't remember what the order was, and TV21 had been previewing Thunderbirds before it came around. So I was kind of really clued into Thunderbirds as an experience. Scott has got this wonderful, I mean, for a start, he's got Shane Rimmer's voice, so you really can't get any better than that. And he's such a good actor. And the puppet, it acts so well. You get this real feeling of strength and bravery and calm, a lot of all those things happening at once. And one of the biggest thrills to me in my later life was, this shows you I don't get out much, was arriving at an Anderson convention, and I just parked, and a car pulled up behind me, and someone said, are there any more car park spaces that you can see? And I knew who it was before I turned round. It was Shane Rimmer, and I just thought, that's just made my life, that has, are there any car parking spaces? Fantastic. And he was a delight to know, and Sheila, his lovely wife. Scott for me was a proper hero, and I loved all the rest of the boys. Willow, obviously, I should have chosen John, but there you go. But Scott was the guy who had to keep everything in order, and I loved Thunderbird 1 as well. I can't choose between any of them really, but Thunderbird 1 is so exciting, just seeing it land every time, and the mystery of how he got in and out of it, latterly solved by people like Graham Bleethman. But for years a mystery to me. How does he jump? Does he jump out of it? Who knows?
Who knows? Does it matter?
No. And you can make up your own versions of it.
Exactly.
Which clearly I have.
However he gets out, it'll be done heroically.
Heroically and with a stoic look on his face.
Absolutely.
But there's another thing about Scott, is he doesn't mess about. If you happen to be someone just taking photographs of, instantly taking photographs of Thunderbird 1 or anything to do with the Thunderbirds, he will come after you with a machine gun, a machine cannon, actually.
Yes.
And blow you to bits.
Totally reasonable response.
Totally within the international rescue parameters, I think.
Yes, because they're so busy trying to help.
I'm so choked with emotion, I'm going to have a drink now.
Well, speaking of being choked with emotion,
yes.
Obviously, I mean, I would be more of a Virgil man.
Oh.
Because
no, I understand.
To me, Scott races there and then says, come on, Virgil, hurry up and do the work.
Yeah.
And Virgil was an artist and a musician.
That's true.
Cocktail maker, an accomplished cocktail drinker, I believe.
Oh, yeah, no, that's right.
And Scott just sort of felt like the loud guy who would tell everybody what to do. However, in the wake of making the documentary, A Life Uncharted, and learning more about Dad's brother Lionel and how Scott was the template, really, we think, for Lionel, I just wondered if that kind of added a certain something for you, knowing that your favourite Anderson character was based on someone who meant so much to the creator of that character.
Well, I think it comes across. I would never have known that, obviously, without. But you can. But when you know that, you can see it's pretty obvious that this is he's definitely the fixed point. I know, obviously, Jeff controls it, and Lady Penelope is off to one side. All these, but really, it all revolves around Scott, and he doesn't do much. Obviously, he kills people occasionally if they take photographs, but I really think that Scott has got a kind of, and of course he's based slightly on Sean Connery as well, so that's another thing, because I was a big Bond fan, still am. So there was lots of appeal to me. I was very worried when I went to see the Thunderbirds movies, though, and they changed him. I think they did in the series, but I didn't quite notice that as much. He had a different head. I felt a little betrayed then.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Original Scott, Series 1 Scott only.
Series 1 Scott.
You've talked about the kind of the personalities of the puppet characters. So much was conveyed by the voice, a lot by the look, obviously, but the performance and so many other elements. So when you come to do something like the Thunderbirds comics in the 2000s for Redan, it's the same issue that we come up against with doing Thunderbirds audio dramas. So much is suddenly missing from the complete picture people are used to. What do you do when drawing a comic for something like Thunderbirds to try to convey all those things? It could not just could be what others have done in the past and what you've drawn on and what you do personally, but how do you put the missing elements of Thunderbirds from screen to comic?
You see, and that's a really interesting point and something I've never thought about.
But that's a bit worrying as the person drawing them, Lee.
Because it's a natural instinct to use body language and the kind of expressions that, of course, the puppets have got 2, maybe 3 expressions, depending on which heads they've got on. But I think that for me, the characters are in my head, and I draw them as well as I can to express what they're doing right now. And it doesn't matter if it's Thunderbirds or I'm currently drawing David Tennant. I kind of know what they look like and what they might be doing facially or what their body language is. That's harder with puppets, obviously, because body language isn't really in it. Having said that, and nothing to do with me, but the actual acting of the puppets, the marionation, super marionation, is just fantastic. I was lucky enough to see the Stephen Leriviere's new episodes of Thunderbirds being made, and it reinforced me how incredibly skilled the puppeteers must have been, and the camera operators and the lighting and all that stuff, because until you see it in action, it's hard to grasp that the character's head is no bigger than my fist, probably slightly smaller, and the camera has to go right in on it. The lighting has to be overwhelmingly bright to get the depth of focus, and the cameras have to move along with the puppets and do all kinds of stuff. It's an extraordinary testament to how good they are, because I sat down with some friends of mine, we were all the same age, we watched Thunderbirds, the first episode, at Christmas one year, just for a laugh really. And we just sat there and watched the whole thing, and that included my wife, who really hasn't got any time for this kind of stuff at all. Not even, I mean, she's slightly nostalgic about these things, but like that much. But we actually sat and watched the whole thing. And if you didn't have good acting in it, obviously the voices, but the actual puppets themselves work really well, and there's so much goes on. So when you come back to drawing that stuff, you kind of only have to think of them as being humans, really. In the past, Frank Bellamy was a great Thunderbirds artist, and I used to worry about it a little bit, because he would draw them pointing, like Scott would kind of point, and his hands would be in extremely exaggerated positions. I've tried to do that, and it looks like rubbish. But Frank was a great artist and could get away with it, and that expressiveness was something that worried me as a kid, because I just thought they don't look like they're doing Thunderbirds-y kind of movements. Now, of course, I look at it and think these are great works of art.
Yeah.
I was talking rubbish from my ignorant point of view.
But it's each artist has their own way of conveying those elements to make it work on the page.
Oh yes, everybody who's attempted it. The one that amuses me a lot is Ron Turner. Ron Turner's a fantastic artist, very stylised, did the last half of the Dalek stories in TV21. He also drew Thunderbirds occasionally. And he made every human he ever drew look a bit like a Thunderbirds puppet. In their proportions, their heads were always slightly too big for their bodies. Most artists deliberately draw heads smaller than they really are, because it just looks more, I don't know, sexy or something. But so there's these slightly infantile characters in Ron's work. He was a genius. I'm saying this, I'm not fit to walk into the same room as him, especially not now he's dead. But he was a fantastic artist. But that was something that I always tried to avoid. Is I wanted to make them look as real as possible, but not unlike their likenesses. And it's a bit of a struggle really to try and get a happy medium.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure lots of Read readers from the 2000s and many other iterations of your stuff will be very satisfied, more than satisfied with your representation.
Let's hope so.
Because they're always lovely. Now, I know how much you enjoyed sniffing
yes.
Zelda last week.
Yeah.
And it is
big thrill.
Now time, hopefully for the last time on this new version of the podcast, where we have to delve into Zelda's mind, and fingers crossed my other container, which I've ordered, Richard, will be here next week. So Lee, would you like to delve back into Zelda's mind for our viewer listener questions?
Pick her brains for another question.
Yep, she's thrilled about that.
Jonathan Westall writes, this is like being on Points of View. How wonderful. After reading the Fireball XL5 comic you did for the 60th anniversary comic anthology, will there be another crossover comic like that in the future?
Well, I can currently answer that, which is no.
Okay.
Because that was it.
Is that it?
It was a unique one where we managed to find a way to do it.
Yes.
We're not currently able to do those
No.
type of things.
We got away with it, viewers.
But it was fun.
It was wonderful.
It was really fun.
I can't. This is the only time I've ever written a script for anything, and again, I have to thank you for allowing me to do that. But it was the most fun because suddenly it's a bit like finding all these toys in the toy box. I can do all kinds of stuff with this, and it was really hard to pare it back. I think I could have done about 56 pages, not just the 16 or whatever we managed in the finish. No, sadly, we can't do that in the future.
For now.
For now, until we've done some other things.
Absolutely.
Which we might do.
There'll be some other things, probably. But yes, I've got somewhere on my phone, I've got a great picture of Lee when he was doing the initial drawing for the Fireball crossover. Oh, yeah. And he had his Fireball toy and his Thunderbird 3 toy meshed together. He's like, I'm going to do this in the panel. And he actually did. So it was a really lovely thing. Next question from the mind of Zelda, please.
It's particularly lovely being backlit by the lights here. It looks like you're really going to someone's body. Emma Nichols. Hello, Emma. What is the longest comic strip you ever did? It seemed to go on forever. And has it broken any records? Well, actually, I did take part in something I think was called the longest comic strip in the world.
You?
Yes.
How convenient for this question.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? It's almost as if they knew. I'm not entirely sure what it really... I saw it a couple of weeks ago, actually. Somebody had a copy. I don't own a copy myself, though, because that's the way things are. But yeah, loads and loads of artists were all asked to do 1 or 2 panels for this extremely long comic strip. And I did that. So it probably did break a record at the time. I think it's probably been superseded since. But yes, I have. And yes, it did.
Amazing. Very impressive.
It was.
Record-breaking Lee Sullivan.
Record-breaking, yes. I've smashed a few in my time, I can tell you. Roger Morgan, does Lee worry that AI could replace him as AI has already been used for book covers, album sleeves and artwork? As an artist, I am very worried. So you should be, Roger. We're all doomed. No. Yes and no, because it's a bit like Photoshop. Photoshop came in, it did put a lot of traditional painting artists out of cover work. There's no doubt about that. So you do have to watch out for this stuff. I got onto Photoshop, which is now seems like old hat, but it was the first part of working digitally. I now work almost entirely digitally, using a thing called Manga Studio, which is now called Clip Studio Art or something like that. And that, so I ink using that. I use my iPad for doing roughs. But the thing is, AI is a different kettle of fish because it means that you can construct things. It's got great advantages for some people that you can magic together something very fast to show what you might, a concept art particularly. It's probably very, very good for that. Yeah. I personally think it'll be a while before comic strips are particularly affected that way. That it's still drawing 3 hands where there should be 2 or 25 fingers on a hand, because it finds it hard to determine what's unique to a particular character. That is a matter of time before that gets sorted out. But the storytelling is very, very much more complicated. And I think that will be the kind of solutions I have to come up with on a regular basis for comic strips are ones that I think only humans can come up with properly at the moment. I'm not saying they can't do it, but there they are. So yes, we should be worried about it, but you should also think, okay, there's a tool I can use.
Yeah.
But also, it depends on the people you're working for. I know that that Big Finish have recently addressed this issue, and they now have a clause where they don't want to anyone to use AI unless it's passed,
for a very specific reason.
A very specific reason, and I think that's a good thing. It was because pushback from fans, they didn't like it. So
understandably,
it's an interesting subject.
It is, but it's at some point someone's going to be able to type in, do this panel in the style of Lee Sullivan, and
good luck to him. I'll be dead by then.
No.
Well, I'm planning on retiring anyway. So.
Well, not yet, hopefully.
Okay. Anthony Zahetner again. Your Anderson heroes and villains rogues galleries are a thing of beauty.
They are indeed.
Oh, how kind, how kind. Are there plans for any more? Well, what do you think, Jamie?
We talked about doing these, didn't we? Because we wanted to do a sort of have a whole collection of characters all in your style. But you've been too busy doing Dr. Bloomin' Who.
And Doctor Who came along and made that all very difficult. I think what we should do is make bookmarks out of them, and so you can have just the one
character bookmarks. And the final question from the mind of Zelda, before we never see her again. Bye, Zelda.
Alex Pass. Or could be Pass, I suppose.
Pass. It's Big Al, isn't it? It's Big Al. Hello, Big Al.
Oh, Big Al. Hello, Big Al. He's done some truly epic work for Anderson and Doctor Who. Is there another show or franchise that he'd love to take a crack at? No.
Really?
I know, that's terrible, isn't it?
Do you ever do Star Trek, Lee?
I did try to do Star Trek once. I did a sample page for, I think it was for DC Comics. They were looking around for people and I was looking around for work. And I did what turned out to be quite a nice sample page, and it was ignored. But to counter that, I got the better part of the deal because I worked for William Shatner on William Shatner's Tech World. So for 2 years I worked for Captain Kirk. And I got to meet him. I went over to Toronto with the writer Evan Skolnick, who we were working on the project at the time. And my favourite moment was he rang me up while I was out. And so I came home to find an answering machine message which said, "Lee, I've missed you. I'm calling you from New York. This is Bill Shatner. I'd love to talk to you about your work." And so he said, "I'll call you back." Okay, so for 2 weeks I stayed by the telephone, ignoring toilet calls, ignoring food. Eventually we ran out of groceries, so I went to the shops again, and I came back and there was another answer machine message. "Lee, I missed you again." And anyway, eventually he half-heartedly said, we're filming Tech War in Toronto. So if you'd like to, if you're passing, drop by and we'll sync a few. Well, you don't have to tell me twice. So as I'm never passing there, we hastily arranged a tour of comic books in shops in America, and we went to Toronto, and we saw some of it being made and Bill directing, and we got to hang around with him for a couple of days and that. So, although I haven't drawn Star Trek, the trouble is with drawing Star Trek is there is so much you'd have to know. You'd have to reference more than I know, and that's a reasonable amount. But you soon find out that everybody knows more about this stuff than I do. I remember going to a Doctor Who convention, a Star Trek convention actually, for the first time, and thinking, I know all about Star Trek. And I had a conversation with someone in the turbo lift of this hotel, and realised I knew nothing about it. I didn't know all the registrations of the ships.
Oh.
I knew the Enterprise. Surely that's enough, But no. And I realised then that you have to be careful with franchises. You have to know as much as the most dedicated fan knows. And I really felt that doing the Fireball thing, because I thought I've got to really be careful what I do here, make sure This is why I didn't send, but you passed it around to get experts to check on this stuff, and it didn't contradict things too badly. But there is a huge weight of expectation if you're doing that sort of stuff. And actually, I'm kind of glad I didn't do it in the finish. But
Nice to get the invite from Bill Shatner, though. Well, to try and make you feel better then,
yes.
Is there an Anderson property in particular that you haven't yet really tackled? I know with the Fireball one you tackled a few, but is there one that you haven't tackled to date but you'd really love to? I'm guessing Space 1999 is not on the list.
I don't know how you get that impression.
Because the amount you moaned when you did the jigsaw puzzle.
You see, now you give it all away.
But they all know that already.
No. Space 1999 was too late for me. I had passed beyond the event horizon as far as Space 1999. UFO, on the other hand, I was absolutely. I'd love to do a comic strip in the style of Brian Lewis, who did the wonderful Supercar book, and also did one or two UFOs for Countdown. Because I just love his style. I wish I could draw like him. If there's anyone I could really, I wish I had his talent. And maybe UFO, because I could get to draw the girls. All those lovely wigs, not just the girls, but everybody else in the thing wears a wig. That's a good thing. It'd be a challenge to make them look like wigs and hair at the same time, which they obviously didn't manage on the show. But the other thing would be to do a really nice version of Stingray or Supercar, but all of them really.
So when I said one show,
when you said one show,
you ignored that.
Is there a show you'd like me to say?
Well, no. Stingray is fine. You've done a few other bits and pieces, including some panels for First Action Bureau.
Oh yes, yeah.
For us, as well as the Heroes and Villains thing, and all of your Anderson work seems to tie together beautifully, whether it's based on a 1962 show or whether it's based on a 2020 idea. There's a way in which you've been able to deliver a shared DNA between those things. How do you do that? How do you go about connecting things up? What are you drawing upon when drawing upon these ideas?
That's a really interesting question. This is why I like interviews, because you never know what you're going to say next. And I have no idea what I'm going to say next now.
Excellent.
But here it comes. I think the point is it all goes through the same processor. So it's all the thing that's up here. I see them in a certain way, and I have a very limited range of drawing techniques, although I can copy other people's work when I have to, but I don't know what my style is. I really don't. People can say to me, "Oh yeah, that looks like a piece of your work," and I have no idea why it looks like that. What it is that really refers to. You can't see it with your own eyes, but I think that as you think through what you're doing, I try and make them all look as if they're humans, which I suppose is the least of my job, I suppose. I should try and make them look like humans. But it was really interesting doing those Heroes and Villains because it mixed very different styles. I mean, Master Spy is the most grotesque human being ever, apart from Mike Mercury. Mike is this great hero and just looks... You wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley because he's just so strange looking. But to actually put those next to the more heroic types, sculpting-wise, and then actually with people like Ed Bishop and Martin Landau and Brian Blessed, that was kind of a bit of a struggle. I had to slim down Master Spy by about 35 stone, and he still looked huge. But I don't know. It's interesting. I think it just all goes through the same process, same brain, same eyes, same hands. Really,
that's just got all that stuff to draw on, and therefore, it's lovely. It's amazing that you've got such a fantastic Anderson repository up there.
A lot of people have said that to me, and I still am amused.
It explains the way you're sitting. Now, I don't think there's anything else that we need to do in this chat. Is there?
Jamie, remember the end, the game at the end?
I don't think we need to do that.
Mute or recruit.
I do.
But we spoke about it. You said you'd do it.
Lee Sullivan, last week, Ellie, our lovely guest...
She was magnificent.
She was magnificent. And
I still feel her presence now.
Me too, actually, yeah. But maybe that's the cards. She drew from a deck of cards very specially created by producer Richard James.
Oh, lovingly, I would imagine.
For a game he likes to call Cute, Mute or Recruit.
Yes.
Now, Ellie drew 3 characters from the deck at random, and you must now choose which of these you're going to do those things to.
Okay. Are you going to reveal them to me now?
I am. But the setup is essentially that you're building your own international rescue type organisation. Okay. You get 3 new followers on Twitter because you're there all the time, and you get to pick one of these to recruit, one to mute on social media, and one that you're like, oh, they're sort of cute. It doesn't have to be sinister. It could just be...
Doesn't have to be.
No.
Can it be sinister?
So, Lee Sullivan, are you ready with your characters?
I am ready and waiting, Jamie.
They are...
Present them to me now.
Captain Scarlet.
Oh.
Zelda from Terrorhawks. And Professor Bergman.
Oh.
Moonbase Alpha.
Okay.
So you've got a cute, a mute, and a recruit here.
You see, none of those are Gabrielle Drake, are they?
Not quite, no. I would say Zelda is the anti-Gabrielle Drake.
Yes. Well, now, this is so hard. Okay, so cute, I think it has to be Captain Scarlet.
Okay.
Because he's very pretty. And he reminds me of Roger Moore. Roger Moore I know Roger Moore thought he was based on, Captain Scarlet was based on him, possibly erroneously. Okay, cute.
So you've got to mute one of these and recruit one of these.
Well, yeah.
Are you going to go for somebody dangerous and evil, or somebody who might help you think out of any situation?
I would go for the Professor.
You're going to recruit him or mute him?
I'm going to recruit him.
So you have recruited Professor Bergman to your secret organisation. Very good.
Good. Well, he'll disappear after a while anyway.
But exactly, just halfway through he'll vanish. Now, you must pick 3, for some reason, you must pick 3 cards for our next guest. So, without revealing them, would you please pick 3 cards at random, keeping them face down?
Okay.
And we will allow next week's person to choose. Yeah, the tension's building here. Very good. So we have our stack of 3 for next time.
For this game that will go on forever. It certainly seems like it's going on forever, doesn't it?
It's an interesting format point. Anyway, Lee, I've so enjoyed our chat as always, and our lovely lunch we had as well. 1.5 lunches.
Yes.
Well, that's for another time. Just as a reminder for those that want to find you online, or even at events, if you're coming to local kind of conventions or anything that you've got booked, where can people meet you in person and or online? I
think I'm going to be, I haven't been asked yet, but it was talked about. I think I'm going to be at LFCC, London Film and Comic Con in the winter. Mm-hmm. I'm going to miss, I'm going to miss the summer one. Yeah. That's my only gig that I think I have lined up. And online, I'm on my website, which is leesullivanart.co.uk, and I'm also on Facebook as Lee Sullivan and Lee Sullivan Art. I prefer the Lee Sullivan one where I'm sitting there with my fluffy dog, because that's the one I look at. I ignore everything else, so don't bother.
So don't bother anywhere else. Lee, thank you very much. We've had a lovely chat. It's great to have you, and see you in another 250 pods.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it immensely.
Cheers.
Dear old Lee.
And there he goes. Finally, we've got rid of him.
I know.
Should we open some windows?
Hopefully
now he's
he takes
gone.
the smell with him, yeah.
That's great.
No, it's so nice to have him. And you can just tell, like, the kind of the passion for Anderson just oozes out of him.
Yeah.
Well, that's an unpleasant term, but
sure.
You know what
Hence
I mean?
the covering on the sofa.
Exactly, but everything everything he does is so influenced by all those things that he grew up loving, from Supercar to XL5 to Stingray, all the TV21 comics and beyond, and now it's kind of come full circle, and it's so nice to have him here. Great. So thank you, Lee. Perhaps we'll see you back again for pod 528.
I have no doubt whatsoever
Good.
that will happen. Great. Another guest next week, of course, so join us then. But in the meantime, people have been commenting on our YouTube channel beneath a recent Fab Fact about Captain Black being red. Do you remember that one?
I remember it well.
brief summary, please, if you will.
There was a professor at the University of Leicester who was a sort of world politics expert.
Briefer than that.
And he wrote stuff that was Anderson related.
Okay, right. Well, John William Novak, I think that is, or Nowak, says there's always been this claim floating around about how antagonists from various horror or SF franchises are secret stand-ins for whoever was the national threat at the time. I'm very dubious of such claims. Most are based on nothing more than the fact that the characters are antagonists. I think that's fair comment, isn't it?
It is, but if you listen to them talk about how they came up with ideas, so often ideas came up from worries of the day. You know, UFO, around the time they were developing UFO, there was lots of talk about organ transplants and what effect that might have on people and how it might change them. So having organs removed is a big fear, and that became something that was built into UFO. That's what the aliens were doing. They were harvesting organs. Yeah. And they've definitely mentioned in the past, lots of them, that the kind of the Cold War feelings of that time, of that period, were a massive influence in how the shows were set up. So I don't think it's just conjecture. It's true, because they were growing, they were working in that world. It's obvious it's going to permeate creativity, don't you think?
Yes, I think so. I think all creatives are magpies, really, aren't they? And they look around at the world about them and
just blooming thieves.
They're thieves. That's right. There's one from Vanished One there for you, Jamie.
Oh, Vanished One says, I looked up the paper that's mentioned in the Fab Fact, and Gerry Anderson is actually in the acknowledgements. It reads, the author wishes to thank Gerry Anderson for his generous cooperation with this piece of research. And members of the audience who responded to the public interview with Anderson at the 20th IAMHIST, or perhaps IAMHIST, Congress in Leicester. The author, like all researchers into Anderson's work, owes a debt to Chris Bentley, former podcast guest, he didn't say that, and the work of the Anderson organisation.
Nice.
Isn't that nice?
Excellent. Gosh, when he went to that Congress in Leicester, you don't think he fell over and bumped his head and woke up in a parallel Gerry Anderson
the whole
universe?
Thing. Let's stop doing this weird Inception thing.
Yeah. Ian Dealey says, I don't think that Captain Black was a communist. He was just a badass Misteron.
Okay, well, that's an interesting word.
And that's just, take it as you see it.
That's fair. But I think the final word goes to Vincent Thalas.
Okay.
Vincent Hallas.
Okay.
Yeah, that probably makes more sense, doesn't it? Because Vincent's a name.
Yeah.
Anyway, Vincent goes into great depth here in terms of whether he thinks this is correct or not.
Okay.
And he comments as follows. No.
Oh, right. Okay. Thanks for taking the time to make that comment.
Thank you,
Just
Vincent.
as valid and interesting.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed that very much. Excellent. Very good. So you can find lots to watch on the YouTube channel, of course. Give us the address, Jamie.
youtube.com/Gerry Anderson TV.
Well done. There's episodes, there's primers, there's interviews, there's podcasts and Fab Facts.
Documentaries,
yeah, it's all there.
Random trailers, random clips, adverts for Tennant's Pilsner.
Extraordinary. There you go. Yes, all to be found on our YouTube channel. Now, it's that time where the lovely Chris Dale welcomes the not-so-lovely Lee Sullivan back to press this big red button for the final time of the randomiser.
Oh, okay, but because it's Lee, I bet it'll be a good one.
Should we find out?
I wonder if he can press it in my favour, perhaps.
Let's see.
Over to you, Chris and Lee.
Right, come on. Chop. We're on the clock here. Right.
Which button this time?
Let's try that one.
Oh.
Made a click noise there. That's there. Anything you're hoping for today after last week's debacle?
I'm hoping for a touch more Robert Vaughan.
You're obsessed. Well, the episode title is now up there, and it looks like we've got some Terrorhawks today with...
Child's Play.
That's much better. You've learned your lesson from last week, I think. Thank you very much. You may go. It's Terrorhawks. It's Child's Play, the second episode of the show's second production block. And I find this a really interesting episode to talk about because, last week's episode, in Terrorhawks terms, was 2 for the price of 1, the introduction of It Star. They changed the status quo forever. And it's nice to have an episode that immediately follows on from that.
Pretty one you are, my baby.
We actually establish who this character is because It Star turned up very late at the end of that episode.
What you do? Go off and play now.
And here we establish for the first time, going off and playing for It Star means go and torment Uncle Youngstar.
Absolute favoritist. Uncle Youngstar.
And his favourite time of the day, mealtime.
Will you?
Don't touch my bowl of granite crunchies.
No, don't touch that.
What is it?
A bomb. Bang.
And it's unfortunate that this episode was
considering it more or less directly follows on from Two for the Price of One, I think this episode was then shown like halfway through the third season. But that's interesting as well. I always wondered to what extent Burl-Goy and Goy-Burl are capable of interacting, and you get the sense there that Goy-Burl is kind of scared of her other self.
Another of his tricks.
I also like as well that young Star, although he's always going to have his day ruined by Burl-Goy, he still genuinely seems to love Goy-Burl. He will always look out for her.
How does that grab you, bonehead?
Even when Burl-Goy is about to blow him up. And it's a very nice way to shake up the character dynamics.
What was that noise?
Now I'll teach you.
What's going on in here?
He almost blew me to pieces.
And as much as I feel for poor young Star at times like this, I do much prefer having It Star there.
Get away from this sweet child.
I know some people aren't too keen on the character, but it's moments like that that just sell it. Young Star having to cope with it, It Star switching back and forth and clearly reveling in the chaos that he's causing, or they're causing, and the fact that Zelda is just, for the TV series at least, always supports It Star.
Grandmother?
What is it, my clever one?
Even when I think at this moment he outsmarts her.
Mars. I've come up with a super derivative of trinitrotoluol.
Of what?
TNT, like boom.
Oh, that's his favourite word for the episode. Yeah, I feel that by 26 episodes in, the scenes on Mars were getting a bit samey, sort of, victory will be ours, and then everybody laughs. And granted, there is still a lot of laughing with It Star there, but it shakes things up a bit. And here we are at one of my favourite places in the Terrorhawks universe, next to the Golden Lay Saloon, which we shall not go into. It's Sheriff Bull's office.
This here is Sheriff Bull.
Yeah.
Speak to me,
With his
somebody.
telephone and his diplomas on the wall,
Where are you at,
which I
Gilroy?
own and treasure.
You hear me, boy?
And this is the first time the sheriff has appeared since
Don't look like no big explosive bomb to me.
gunfight at Oki's Corral. And although in that episode we heard Kilroy, we never actually saw him until now. So I find it really interesting that they saved the Sheriff Bull puppet for so long. Because I think that some of the puppets would have been skinned, essentially, and reused for other characters. But they kept Bull.
No big deal to me.
And I just wonder if they saw how he was in that first episode and thought, we need to earmark that character for future appearances. And bring in Kilroy as a physical presence.
By the computerized all-weather timepiece on my wrist, I still have 15 minutes.
And they're both, for human characters in this show, they're quite nice designs, they're quite appealing. And, the more comedic characters this show can have, the better.
Gilroy, speak to me, boy.
This is just one of my favourite scenes of the whole series.
What explosion that was.
Explosion?
I mean, horrendous.
Where are you at?
Me? I'm 4, maybe 5 feet up this here tree.
Oh, I love it.
When you get out of plaster, Kilroy...
Again, the reaction from the Sheriff Bull puppet there is quite something.
Get yourself a new watch and a new job.
Aww.
Get me watching.
Phone time.
Urgent. Like sometime today.
Yeah, I wonder if it was Tony Barwick who decided that they should bring this character back, or if there was just a general feeling that they put so much work into the studio. Not the studio, this is the studio where we are now, and where we are now, the sheriff's office, and the associated puppets and bric-a-brac. But speaking of studios, and speaking of moments that I love in this show, always nice to get a Kate Kester song. I never understand why she re-records and re-records the same songs that she's already recorded multiple times, but I've never found this distracting, and I know again a lot of people did with Terrorhawks, especially when it was first on. Having to stop pretty much every week for Kate to sing a song. But it's worth it for the sight of Stu bobbing around. I also like the puppetry on Kate there. You don't often get the sense that she's holding the mic stand. But in this one, she is. And who's this come to interrupt the fun? It's Colonel Johnson.
Can I help you? Sorry, no, you're not allowed in here. No, sorry, look, you'll have to leave.
IRS.
Beg your pardon, what?
Kate's still dancing with the music.
Income tax. You get my meaning.
Oh, you mean... Oh, the IRS. Oh, yeah, okay, Mr. King. Miss Kestrel, can you just hold it a minute, please? Hold it, hold it. Hold it, everyone, hold it.
And I've often wondered,
What's happening still?
as a lot of people have,
Oh, what's happening? Yeah, right, okay, well, what's happening?
what puppet is Chick King?
Revenue man, you know?
And in the SOS music video, they put Colonel Johnson up there.
The IRS? Take care of it, Stu.
I got some things to sort out in a hurry, Stu. Documents I suddenly need to get rid of. Yeah, I always wondered if that is the Colonel Johnson puppet up in the booth. So this is kind of an in-joke of having this puppet that also plays King down on the recording studio floor.
Oh, yeah, right. Miss Kestrel.
You want to talk to me?
In private, right away.
Ah, yes. Colonel Johnson and his massively big glasses. I've never noticed how big those were before.
Like me, Johnson.
It was quicker than setting up a meeting with Dr. Neinstein.
It's a different way of doing things other than the usual way I turn up in these stories.
The device is planted in a remote ranch house. The authorities will warrant place and time of detonation.
What's the connection with
I like the little Badwater County music riff there.
When our experts went in, they were able to establish the device was alien.
Ooh.
Zelda?
An hour ago, we received another warning. Time and place.
Hudson?
Yes, ma'am.
So shades of Captain Scarlet here. The Terrorhawks are getting threats from Mars regarding what's going on.
057282.
How much time do we have?
A little over 10 hours.
We'll get back to you, Kate.
10:10.
Launch the Battlehawk.
This is a 10:50.
And a nice nighttime launch sequence. I believe this is reused from 10 Top Pop. That might have been the first time we saw the nighttime launch sequence. And part of me thinks it actually looks better under cover of darkness. Granted, we didn't get a full launch sequence there, but something about the house at night is quite impressive.
2 hours, 30 minutes.
What will be the local time?
Also notable for this episode, and I don't know if he wasn't around or there just wasn't much call for him, but as I remember, Zero has almost no dialogue in this episode. Anywho, we find Itstar in an abandoned ranch house, and I love here, and I don't think it was quite visible on DVD, but it is now on HD and Blu-ray. The table he's sitting in front of is covered in dust, and in the dust he's just written "boom" with his finger.
Mein uncle.
It just shows the single-mindedness of the character.
You plant them exactly where I told you?
Yes, yes. Why do I do all the work?
Young Star is covered in sand and dust.
I am the brain.
Ah.
How do you say
Which one of us is the beauty?
will come?
Oh, that's Sister,
I would
obviously.
not sit down if I were you.
Oh, what's wrong with the chair?
It's wired up to 4,000 volts.
You little horror!
Again, more contented bobbing from Itstar
The
there.
chair is fine. Sit down.
And it's a new level of villainy for this show. This talk of applied psychology and of understanding the mentality of your opponent,
Person's mind works.
which doesn't really always come across with Zelda's regular plans. And I kind of wish they'd sustained this for longer than they did, because it feels like Itstar kind of disappears halfway through the season.
Yes, Uncle Youngstar. Boom!
Boom! You get it? They have to spell it out in more dust. Boom! And these two also make a lovely team. I think previously, if you look at episodes where Youngstar goes to Earth, either he's paired with Yuri or it's just an assortment of cubes. Giving him someone...
That's it.
Oh, very early graphics there. Yeah, but partnering him up with someone who is far his intellectual superior.
Explosive device in the middle of
Again,
nowhere.
it just shakes up the dynamic of the show.
On the
Because I don't think anybody really believed for a moment that Youngstar was capable of of leading an operation on his own like that.
Yes, Mom.
One line for Windsor Davies there. We'll keep the tags on that, or track of that even, I should say.
Flaming thunderbolts.
So the Martians have planted a
cubic
bomb
feet of gas an hour.
Supplying half of South and Central America.
on a very crucial part of our pipeline.
Let me talk to Kate.
More nice nighttime stuff.
Face an emergency situation. We may need your help. We'll pick you up.
What about the special package I'm carrying?
Johnson,
That's one way to describe him.
bring him along. He might learn something.
And this is an interesting, if kind of odd addition to the story. Let's bring Johnson along.
What do you say?
Well, I guess all I can say is, wowee!
But I also find it interesting they say, oh, Kate will pick you up, we might need you. And then once she's aboard Battlehawk, I don't think you ever see her for the rest of the episode. Because, you know, she doesn't have Hawkwing to pilot. Yeah, I don't think we see her again after this point. Oh, there she is, proves me wrong. But yeah, we don't see her after Hudson boards Battlehawk. But this is all nice nighttime stuff. Again, I think this would have to have been shot for this episode.
Stand by for liftoff.
Ready for liftoff.
And considering we don't see much of it, that was quite a nice detailed model for the rear cargo bay. Also some nice weight on Battlehawk as a model here as well. It's maybe slightly too dark to see what's going on, but...
It's a blank piece of paper.
Well done, my uncle. Yes, this is another of ItStar's amazing creations.
Let me see that.
And it's very in keeping with Young Star
It's a blank piece of paper again.
to be flummoxed by a blank piece of
How
paper.
does it work?
By Super Macrotronics.
Ah!
But don't worry your pretty little head about that, man.
So there we go, the same puppetry technique used to operate these characters, Super Macromation, also creates digital maps on paper. Oh. Young Star looked awfully pleased with himself then. I was right. I get a cookie.
We'll go in Terrahawk.
10-10.
Okay. We may as well get some use out of the thing. Yes, this is why Kate didn't tag along. They left her in Battlehawk.
They can't.
Boom, boom, boom.
There's Young Star performing an early version of Baldric's famous poem. And although Terrahawk isn't used very often, I don't quite understand the necessity really to sort of be able to set up a vantage point like that. I do like how heavy the thing feels with all the moving parts. Even as it was moving along, the legs were moving and the wings were extended.
And the ranch house was blown to smithereens.
And nearly took Kilroy with it.
I've got 150 special training hours in Groundhawk. How long have you got? 3 hours?
Training time doesn't come in.
Hello, we're the audience here. What's Groundhawk? This is the first we are hearing of that vehicle.
Go in.
Mary.
Tiger, when you lose an argument, lose with grace and dignity. And shut up.
Oh, a nice moment of steel from Mary there. But yes, Groundhawk, a new vehicle. An interesting design. I think it certainly fits the look of the Terrahawks universe.
Something's coming. What is it?
It will be some kind of tracked vehicle.
But I think it only turns up in one more episode after this, that being Space Giant. It's a nicely detailed model. I kind of wish, as with the space tank, that they'd got some more use out of this.
How did you know?
Applied Psychology, page 1.
All your enemies will use tracked vehicles to counter your evil plans.
The problem. All readouts 10-0.
All negative?
I'm going in closer.
And this is an interesting development in the character of Mary, because up to this point she's been very sort of... Well, I know from talking to her that Denise was never all that fond of the character, because she found her quite boring. She was always telling people what to do and otherwise just being kind of generically pleasant. it's nice to see the character
Mind if I come along?
actually have something to do for a change. So I like this part of it. I like that she has this moment of heroism, and it happens a couple more times in the second production block. I suspect this is partly a reuse of... Oh no, I was going to say the space tank cockpit, but it probably isn't. Anywho, Groundhawk is pulling up to the bomb over the pipeline.
Like bees round a sugar bowl. But soon, someone's going to get stung.
Ooh. Nice reaction from Youngstar there. Just that sudden shock.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And I think we're coming up on a rare moment of stop motion for this show.
You know what they're telling me? They're telling me this thing is a fake.
Oh.
An empty shell.
You can hear as well that Denise is greatly enjoying these more steely moments. Yeah, there's the stop motion. That's
For space sake, she was right.
a lot of effort to go for
Get out of there.
a very small effect.
It's time.
Activating the minefield that Youngstar dug the previous night. Oh, here we go, some lovely explosions. Again, it's just wonderful to have Itstar on board now.
Now there's only one way out.
Because he does feel like he's actually thought this plan through.
It's too clever.
And even though Youngstar's been on the receiving end of Itstar's cruelty, it's nice that he still occasionally gets to sort of revel in the evilness of everything.
Whoever you are. And I promise you one thing. I'm gonna get you.
Ooh.
That
Tough words.
is the better part of valor.
What does that mean?
It means it's time to leave.
We should stay and fight it.
You can do what you like, Dummkopf. I'm off.
Oh.
But before I go,
So what weapons have you got to fight with? You
activate
have
the
a shovel.
minefield you so carefully laid last night.
Oh, now Groundhawk is fenced in. This is one of those occasions where Azifa somehow slipped past Spacehawk, coming to Earth and going back. I don't think we even see Spacehawk. But again, you don't really need to see that. It's not a vital part of the story. This is the good stuff, though.
Some kind of landmine. Mary, get out of there.
What about the Groundhawk?
You'll have to abandon it.
No. Groundhawk's a prototype. I'm staying with her.
And it's a nicely dramatic sequence, all this, but it does make me think, hang on, one of the things that Battlehawk is supposed to be able to do, it never does it on the show, but if you have one of the Bandai toys, there are these sort of hooks that they use to recover a battle tank in case Battlehawk can't land. It would be handy to have something similar on Groundhawk for situations like this.
Mary, that's an order.
All right, Tiger. I've never disobeyed an order.
Oh, here it goes.
Tiger, malfunction on escape capsule. I'll have to drive through.
Wow. Someone's feeling brave this week. Unfortunately, it won't last. The puppet scale cockpit set is really taking a beating here.
She'll never make it. She'll be blown to pieces.
I'd love to know the thinking that went into putting Colonel Johnson in Terrorhawk for this episode. I don't think he's anyone's favourite character on the show, and often he's kind of a bit redundant because he just turns up to tell people the plot of the week. But I enjoy having him there for this week. It's something different, and it's nice, along with the Itstar stuff, that the show remembers. Let's keep new elements going with this.
She's clear. She did it.
Yay.
Of course she did. She made it.
We got away with it.
Almost sound disappointed. I didn't get to prove that I was right.
A clever, devious, and evil mind.
Oh, it's such a great way to establish the character.
One day, Mummy. Then you shall, my baby.
Although I don't think he actually does. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he ever goes back to Earth.
You'd better believe it, Earth scum.
Oh, that's a lovely sinister close-up there as well. Obviously, he's a fairly hideous puppet, but the child's clothing, it just sells the character, and of course these two opposing personas and voices going on. Anywho, that was Child's Play, and oh, what a nice follow-on from the events of the previous episode 2 for the price of 1. It kind of shows that Tony Barwick was really thinking about, it's one thing to shake up the status quo, but you kind of occasionally have to do a bit more work to get these new elements feeling like an essential core part of the narrative, and I think they did it superbly there. It's a lovely, essentially an introduction to It Star, which we had briefly at the end of the previous episode, but here it's just, we have a new, very devious villain with a lot of schemes to deploy. And I just noticed as the voice actors list went past there, Windsor Davies only gave this episode one line, and it could have been lifted from anywhere else. Wonder what else he had on that day. We'll never know.
Well,
there you go.
I'm not saying that he pulled any favours there, because the randomizer is random, but it was Terrorhawks.
It was Terrorhawks.
And I love a bit of Terrorhawks.
You do.
As you well know. Because it's 40th anniversary year.
I see.
Yeah.
Anything happening to mark the 40th
Loads
anniversary?
of stuff.
Well, like what? Tell me.
Well, you have to refer back to the Gerry Anderson news of this week or previous weeks, or next week possibly.
I see.
Because it's kind of difficult to know where we are in the world and
in other
space-time.
words, I'm talking to the wrong Jamie Anderson.
Yes, you should have spoken to the one with the glasses.
That's right.
Don't speak to this one. This one knows nothing.
A reminder for you, Jamie.
Yeah.
When you record the news later on at home, don't forget to wear the glasses.
Yes.
Otherwise that comment will make no
No,
sense.
I know, but I'm going to do it. That was my whole idea.
I see.
Because I'm going to do the shuffling of the...
Oh, good. Oh, I look forward to that. Excellent. Very good. More Randomiser next week, of course. It happens every week. That's the only thing about the Randomiser that isn't random. Imagine if it just happened on a random week.
Oh, the random randomizer.
Yeah. And you'd have to be lucky to catch it.
Should we introduce that? No, let's not. Let's leave it as it is.
But thankfully, it is here every week, and you can catch the next Randomiser on Pod 268 next week.
268 next week?
They're coming thick and fast, aren't they?
Well, they're coming weekly. That's the other thing that's really predictable about this podcast.
Oh, yeah. I'm thick and you're fast. That's it. Okay. Thanks for joining us this week, and, we'll see you next time.
But in the meantime, email us podcast@jerryanderson.com and tweet us at Gerry Anderson TV, or use the hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast. Make sure you subscribe and like and all that usual stuff.
There you go.
And if you're on YouTube and watching us, then subscribe and press the little bell thing. Because then when we come up with the next one, Pod 268, you'll get a little notification. You'll be one of the first to watch it, and maybe you'll be able to comment first.
Right.
And then maybe we'll give you something.
No,
as a
don't say
reward.
that.
We might do.
Yeah, we might.
Yeah.
Okay. Caveat, we might.
See you in 268.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So, willy-nilly, you're just giving away prizes.
Did you call me?
No, I'm saying that you're just giving away prizes now for random things.
Well, I just thought it would be nice.
So the first person to comment under the next podcast or this podcast?
Under the next podcast. It can't be this one. So the first comment under 268, which says first, F-I-R-S-T, and we can verify by when you commented, we will drop you a comment, you email us, and we'll send you a small prize.
Right, okay, yes.
Very small, but
very small.
Perfectly formed, and it's the thought that counts,
Wearable?
isn't it?
Edible?
Probably not edible. I can't confirm anything else because I haven't decided what it is yet. I'm looking around the table to see if something there. But yes, we will do. So yes, hit the bell and then you can be the first, and then the first can get a prize, but only for 268, and we'll see how it goes.
Your mission, Podsteron, should you choose to accept it, is to be the first commenter underneath the next podcast. Good luck.
This podcast will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Uh-oh.
Bye.
Bye.
That was an Anderson Entertainment production.